Hey, hi everyone. Welcome. Thank y'all for coming today and joining for this call, Light is Information. I'm really, really excited. I love Roudy so much. The first time I attended a call where Roudy was teaching about light, it really changed the way that I look at things like dramatically overnight, understanding the relationship with the sun and the relationship that we inevitably have with artificial light today and the way that it impacts us and the information that we're receiving, how it impacts our sleep and our hormones and our digestion and our mood and every aspect of the human experience. And just hearing about Rudy's journey with that and the ways that he has explored the science and done his own science and his beautiful efforts to help people live a more like healthy, natural, in a natural rhythm with light and a natural rhythm with life and relationship with nature has been so inspiring for me. So thank you so much for joining us today, Rudy. And yeah, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Megan. It's such a pleasure to be here. Before I tell you about who I am, my name, where I come from, and what all of this is about, I want you to do something with me. And it's going to take 20 seconds. So, wherever you are right now, I want you to get up and go stand next to the nearest window next to you. Take a moment, look outside for a few seconds, and then turn around and look at the room that you are just sitting in. Then come back and sit down. So I'm going to give this 15 to 20 seconds, not more. All right. So I want you to type a number in the chat. First instinct. Don't think about it. How many times brighter do you think it is on the other side of the window compared to the room that you are in right now? Just drop a number. 10, Nikki, Megan, 20, Angie, 5, Gustavo, 33, Isabel, 20. Okay. So almost everybody in this room said anything between 5 and I believe all the way up to 50, Nora. I like the confidence. Ginny, 100. I love the confidence there. Okay, so everybody said a number between 5 and 100. So it's not twice as bright. It's not even 10 times as bright. It's not even 100 times as bright. The answer is it's 500 times or more. 500. Now think about this. And if it's gray and miserable where you are, it's still 25 times or more brighter than where you are sitting right now. So here's the strange thing. You are sitting right now in what your body almost is reading as a cave, literally. And I want to plant this thought in your mind. You literally, if you make your calculation, you'd be spending about 97% of your life in this environment. 97. And that's only half of the story. Because I've just told you that the room that you're in is much darker than it's supposed to be. And I haven't told you that it's a complete different frequency of light. Why is that? Because sunlight has literally every wavelength of light contained in it. If you look at the spectrum, you see all of the colors that you see in a rainbow. There's also the invisible frequencies of infrared and UV. The spectrum is very smooth, is very symmetrical, it's continuous, and your eyes and your body have been reading that curve for thousands and thousands of years. Now, take a moment and think about your living room, the artificial lights that you sit under. These lights, they're very different than sunlight. They're one, really bright at night, and they lack brightness during the day. Second, they're very rich in blue light, and they're very deficient in other important frequencies like yellow, orange, red, and infrared. So here's a thought. We all know that in order for us to have a holistic, vital well-being, we need the full spectrum of vitamins and minerals. And we also know that just like if we don't get those full spectrum of minerals and vitamins, we experience what we call malnutrition. Okay. And just like we experience malnutrition when we eat food that are deficient in vitamin and minerals, we also experience malillumination when we are constantly exposed to a light that is deficient in the frequencies that the body needs in order to thrive. Now, also, just like we poison our bodies when we overexpose ourselves or when we overtake a certain mineral or a vitamin, we literally experience poisoning. In the same way, when we overexpose ourselves to one frequency of light, like in this case, the blue light coming from the screens and from the LEDs, we are over poisoning our biology. And in the next 60 minutes or so, I'll show you exactly how it's impacting your sleep, your energy, and your mood. Now, before I go there, I want to share another strange fact. So, for a moment, I want you to imagine it's 10 p.m. at night. Okay? Every single human being who came before us for thousands of years, they were exposed to a very specific frequency of light at that time. What was it? Type down in the chat if you know what it was. 10 p.m. at night. What were our ancestors exposed to? Firelight, Megan. Boom. Okay, so imagine yourself sitting by a bonfire. The light is warm, orange, slightly flickering. It's about 10 lux of natural brightness. Now, contrast this to your living room. Tonight, 10 p.m., you're on a sofa, LED lights in the ceiling, the phone is in the hand, the TV is glowing. See, this is not 10 lux of natural brightness. How much brighter do you think your living room is compared to a firelight? Drop a number in the chat. 10 times, 50 times, 100 times. So it really ranges depending on your light environment inside, but it's anything between 50 to 100 times. So that's 100. How much brighter it is compared to a full moon? It's 500 to 1,000 times brighter than a full moon. A full moon is literally one lux. That magical night when you go outside and you feel like everything is illuminated with the beautiful light of a full moon, that's only one lux. And your living room could be ranging from anything between 100 to 500 lux. So no wonder why the body is confused. No wonder why we're struggling with sleep. We're waking up feeling exhausted. No wonder why we have these intense food cravings at 10 p.m. when we're supposed to have satiety. No wonder why everybody is talking about having an ADHD and not being able to focus. We're literally living upside down. Look at what you've done today, and there's no judgment. I just want to bring your attention potentially to how the day goes. You're probably spending the daylight hours in the cave. That's the indoor environment that we're in. And if it's daytime where you are, in about 8 to 10 hours from now, you're going to spend the dark hours standing in what your body will genuinely believe it's midday sunlight. So both scenarios are backwards every single day for your entire adult life. And here's the funny fact, nobody has ever mentioned it to you. You've probably spoken to a lot of health experts about struggling with sleep, with energy, with moods. Not one doctor, not one nutritionist, not one person who has given you an advice about your energy, sleep, and focus ever mentioned that to you. So before we dive deeper, I'd like to get a sense on where we're at here because I'm going with this like really intuitively. Like it may go in different directions. I don't know where it's gonna go, but I just want to get a gauge. How many of you here actually struggle with ADHD? Type ADHD in the chat. If you struggle with low energy levels, type energy in the chat. If you struggle with sleep, type sleep in the chat. And if you think you're a night owl, type night owl in the chat. Okay, so we got ADHD, sleep, energy, sleep, night owl, ADHD, energy, night owl. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of ADHDs, I'm seeing a lot of energy, lots of night owls as well, sleep and energy. So we'll get back to this. Now, here's what I think is going to happen in the next 60 minutes or so. I think that by the end of this, like frankly, I'm here to give all of myself to this conversation. And by the end of this conversation, I want to know that we're leaving this with a whole new paradigm on how we see those things in relationship to light. Okay, so my intention is that you are going to be able to explain your own energy, your sleep, your focus, your cravings, your mood better than ever before, or better than any doctor has ever explained it to you. Okay. Not because I'm smarter than your doctor. In fact, I'm not. But because I'm going to talk to you about the one variable that essentially nobody in the modern medicine is trained to look at. It's absolutely strange that in biology and in the school of medicine, physics is not looked at. They're looked at two different fields. And therefore, we don't investigate how the physics of nature, like light, like water, like magnetism, control and give instruction to our internal terrain of biology. And today, I wanna just plant that seed. I want to show you that how nature essentially and the physics of her are in constant communication with our internal terrain. Okay, and I think there's a decent chance you're going to finish this hour, perhaps feeling slightly angry or disappointed. Not at me, not at Megan, but at the fact that nobody has ever told you this sooner than this. All right, so my name is Roudy. I'm the founder of VivaRays, and I grew up in Lebanon in the Middle East. Now, I want to tell you a little bit more about why I truly care about this conversation and why it's important to me. So I want you to picture this. It's 1 a.m. in the morning, March 2017. And I'm literally laying down in bed next to my former partner in our dark basement in Canada, scrolling through my phone. So the blue light is literally shining on my face. My eyes are burning. I'm feeling drained, physically and mentally. But I'm wired and I can't stop scrolling. Now, suddenly a video popped up on my feed. As a scroller, I almost skipped it, but something magnetized me to it. It said, artificial light is killing us. I'm sitting in bed, literally squeezing my brain, barely understanding what Dr. Jack Ruse is saying. But then I wake up the second morning and there's this one sentence that kept echoing in my mind. You can't get healthy in the same light environment that made you sick. And I'm like, could this be the reason for everything I've been going through? The lack of energy, the ADHD, the depression, the constant fatigue? Could this be it? And this question, what a wonderful question. It completely changed the trajectory of my life. It took me to an 8 year odyssey so far, where I've been studying the light problem extensively. And I even founded a company to solve it. But before you think to yourself, oh, he's probably going to tell me about why the blue light from my phone is hurting my eyes. I've heard this over and over. Let me stop you right there. Because the light problem is a lot more nuanced and stratified than simply avoiding screens 1 hour before bedtime or wearing some cheap blue light blocking glasses during the day. This is a lot of the advice that we hear around light. Protect your eyes. It stops there. It's a lot deeper than this. And what I learned in the past 8 years is absolutely mind blowing. And I would have never imagined that I'd be saying what I'm about to say. I learned that the quality of our life is entirely dependent on the quality of the spectrum of light that is entering our eyes every single day. Now, take a moment to think about this. The quality of our life, our well being, even our relationship, even our business, the way we think, the way we feel, the way we act is literally controlled by light. And I will prove that to you, not theoretically, not philosophically, but literally with how light converts into specific neurotransmitters and hormones that control the way we think, the way we feel, and the way we act. And thinking back, I wish somebody had told me this when I was a kid at school. As a child, growing up in Lebanon in the Middle East, I really struggled. And my teacher made me the definition of the ADHD kid who can't focus. And frankly, the classroom, it was an absolute prison to me. It left me drained. And I was asked to sit still and repeat useless information under fluorescent lightings that were frying my brain on the inside out. On the other side, I would go outside and instantly I'll get into a state of flow where I could communicate with nature, where nature would teach me about her secrets, about light, about geometry, about the physics of how everything is connected. So my brain could not fathom why the heck would I go inside if I'm outside and I have the best teacher in the world. So in order to cope with all of this, I had to find a strategy. And my strategy was make trouble, get kicked out, and you'll be freed from that prison. So by the time I was 17 years old, I was asked to leave 7 different schools. Now, as I grew older, I became exhausted from fighting and resisting. And I did the most heartbreaking thing imaginable. I gave up. I gave up on myself. And I turned into a creature of the night, what you call a night owl, staying up very late, scrolling on social media, doing drugs, partying, doing all these poor strategies so that I could feel good. And then I'd wake up the second day, low on energy, unmotivated, all day long. And somehow I made it to engineering school. And frankly, despite looking like a young, muscular, fit engineer on the outside, on the inside, I was drowning. It was unbearable to be me. I had no idea why I'm alive. What's the purpose of being here? And I spiraled down, ended up losing my job. My health was declining. And no matter what I tried, climbing freezing mountains with Wim Hof at minus 20 degrees, trying every diet imaginable. I cut down on sugar and processed food. Then I became a vegan. That didn't work. So I went into ketosis and then carnivore and then ancestral diet. And I was taking all the best adaptogens and supplements for brain health, mitochondrial health. So I'm like, what's wrong with me? I felt the same. So I decided to leave my career completely. I no longer wanted anything to do with engineering. And I made a commitment to myself. I said, I'm going to go travel the world and I'm going to find a way to come back to myself, no matter what the cost is. And as I started my traveling journey, and 3 months later, I'd moved in with my former partner in that dark basement where I watched that video about artificial light. And a few weeks after that night, my partner being very desperate because I was suicidal depressive, literally, and she didn't know what to do. When she heard about that video, a light bulb hit in her head, and she's like, hmm. And she's brilliant. What she actually ended up doing, she went on a website called Woofing, Woofing. And this is a website where you could find local farmers who are doing amazing work, and you could go literally and volunteer, live with them on the farm in exchange for accommodation and food. So she booked me an experience. She comes to me, she's like, hey, Rudy, pack your stuff. We're going to volunteer on this organic farm in rural Quebec with indigenous people. And I'm like, imagine she's talking to a suicidal depressive person. And I'm like, filled with doubt, like going on a farm, like, how's this going to help me? But I had to trust her. She was the only person in my life that I could even talk to. So here we go, driving for 7 hours from Ontario to Quebec. And when we arrive at night, there's no electricity, no artificial lights, and something that I haven't witnessed for many, 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 many years. Literally, a canopy of twinkling stars, so freaking brilliant, so alive. It felt like, wow, like the universe is welcoming me home for the first time in my entire adult life. So, day one, it was May 2017. I wake up feeling exhausted. My body doesn't want to be outside. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to be around farmers who are asking me, like, what do you do? Like, how are you feeling? I'm like, feeling like absolute garbage. But then, here's the interesting thing. Day three, May 3rd, 2017, something absolutely magical happens. And I wasn't expecting it. I wake up, and for the first time in my entire adult life, I literally feel like energy surging through my veins, like electricity. My body is feeling alive. I open my eyes, I look around, and I see my former partner, and it felt like as though I'm seeing her for the first time ever. I was like, wow, she's so beautiful. And I couldn't help but smile. I was like, whoa, this is new. This is different. I literally opened the door of the tent. I step outside and I was absolutely mesmerized. The world is glowing with the magical soft light of the dawn. The birds are singing. It's absolutely mesmerizing. And I was like, literally like, I don't know how to even deliver this when you're absolutely dead on the inside and something happens within and you awaken. It's like electricity running through you for the first time after being dead. It felt like, wow, a sense of purpose, of being connected to everything around me. Like, I was literally like, wow, I am awake. I am alive. And here's what's absolutely mind blowing. Many of you here said you identify as a night owl. I also identified as so. But the night owl in me, who stayed up late until 2 a.m., guess what? Is now falling asleep shortly after the sunset, naturally. How could that be possible? And you wouldn't believe what happened next. And this is the part that literally brings me chill. I've shared it on podcast and presentation over and over and over again. And every time I share it, I still feel like there's intense chills in my spine. Literally one morning, I'm crouched over the ground on my knees. I'm wearing the crops, and the farmer walks over to me. He places his hand on my shoulder. He looks me in the eyes, and he says, "Wow, Rudy, what a powerful focus you got. I've never seen anything like it." And imagine my word in that moment. I literally like disappear into nothingness and come back 1,000 times per second. And there's like this internal shift or struggle that is happening inside of me. Like on one side, my paradigm of being in the ADHD kid who can't focus is standing strong in front of me, saying, "Who do you think you are?" On the other side, there's the potential and the opportunity of me like breaking through that freaking wall and realizing that everything I thought to be wrong with me, my ADHD, my depression, my chronic fatigue, it was never about me. It was my light environment. And in this moment, I'm like literally half foot in, half foot out, feeling fascinated but in disbelief at the same time. And for the rest of the 6 weeks, this reality started to get anchored in my well being. And I started to embody the new reality of, wow, I'm actually not an ADHD kid. I'm actually not a night owl. I'm actually not struggling with a lack of discipline and willpower. I actually don't have mental illness. But then something unpredictable happened. I go back to the city, and within a matter of few weeks, it all comes crashing back at me. The fog, the exhaustion, the night owl tendency. It was like as though my past paradigm came haunting me back, saying, like, who do you think you are? You're coming back to the reality of you being the ADHD, the depressed, the tired, and exhausted. And in that moment, I had two choices. One, I would surrender to that reality and feel overwhelmed by it, or I would radically say, I don't accept this. And thankfully, I realized that I had the power to completely go outside of this. And I realized I need to go deeper. And it was in this moment that I literally turned into a mad scientist because I'm like, all right, I've had a taste of what's it like to change my light environment. It happened only once. I got back to the city and I lost it. I still don't know. Like, am I up to something? And for the next 4 years, my life become a radical experiment where I'm literally going back and forth between farms, living with indigenous people in a way that is in complete alignment with nature's light and dark cycles, and coming back to the city and experiencing that contrast, documenting every shift in my sleep, in my energy, in my mood, and taking the time on the farm to dive into the research, devouring every book, every study that I could find on the science of light so I could solve the light problem. And over those 5 years, I started to learn about blue light and about blue light blocking glasses. And one of my experiences was that I'd go to the farm within a 3 days or so. I would start naturally waking up at sunrise, energy flowing through my veins. I'd spend most of my day outside, inspired, happy, creative. I'd naturally start eating pretty much at the same time every day. And I'd naturally want to fall asleep shortly after the sunset. My life felt amazing. But then as I went back to the city, I realized, all right, now I have a power in my hand. Although I'm in the city, I could still go and watch the sunrise. I could still take sun breaks outside. I could still harness that power of light. But the one thing that broke me every freaking time was that I had no control of the light that is entering my eyes after the sunset. And what I would start noticing is that slowly it would poison my rhythm. And within a matter of few days, my sleep will start getting disrupted. I would start wanting to stay up late, longer than usual. And then naturally, I will miss the sunrise because I couldn't wake up in the morning. And my rhythm start dragging. And it will feel like I'm living on a roller coaster. So I wanted to solve this, and I learned about blue light blocking glasses. And I got really excited because I was like, wow, there's a tool that I could buy that could block that light and that would allow me to live in rhythm even when I'm in the city. That's absolutely amazing. So I bought three pairs for my former partner, my sister, and I, and we got all excited. We put them on all the time, naively thinking that we finally cracked the code for solving the light problem. Those glasses that I bought back then, they were clear lenses from my optometrist office. And within a few days of wearing them in the city, I know we all noticed that nothing happened, no change, no magic. So it was really disappointing. And then I went on to the other experience and I learned about other blue light blocking glasses. So we kept trying all these different brands. And to my disappointment, none of them really worked. And when I got a spectrometer, which is a tool that allows you to measure the light in your environment, I realized that, oh, well, none of these glasses are actually doing what they advertise to do. So shortly after then, I met an optical engineer from Florida who was really intrigued by my discoveries about light. So he wanted to help me, and we would set up calls weekly where we were strategizing on how we could create a melanin pigmentation dye that will block the right amount of light at the right time of the day. And we went through countless trials and errors trying to perfect it. So I was literally at the time in my garage, and poor man, there was this guy who was renting us his house, and he was also living as a roommate with us. And I was literally like going on experiments of tinting these glasses. I had the gloves on, face mask on, hunched over, manually tinting lenses from morning till night. And there was all this freaking smoke from the tint blowing to his room. And poor guy, he was probably like really bombarded by me, and he had no idea what's going on there in the garage. And after about 9 months of failing over and over again, bam, finally, we got actually different formulas that allowed us to have the first pair of circadian lenses that filtered the right amount of light at the right time of the day. And frankly, at that time, I had zero intention of starting a business. I was literally experimenting on my own. And I was so happy because I got a tool that helped me to protect my sleep when I am in the city. So I went on and I started experimenting. And for the first time in 9 months, I was essentially able to go back to the city and maintain my rhythm that I had established on the farm. So I was like, bam, okay, we cracked something. And seeing that all of my friends and family had a light problem, I decided, okay, I'm gonna make 30 pairs in my garage. And I started handing them over to friends and family and sharing with them what I now call the 7 steps of harnessing the power of light. And every time I was literally blown away by how quickly they began to heal and reverse their issues. The first person I helped was my mother. And it was an absolute delight because she had been struggling with insomnia for over 8 years, literally losing her hair and her vitality, unable to think, and thinking because all of her circle of people thought it's natural, she's aging. and this is what is supposed to happen when somebody ages. She had accepted this as a reality, and she didn't know what to do. And when I met her over the phone, I had tears in my eyes because I realized, whoa, like I'm literally losing my mother. Like she's not the person that I grew around anymore. She's been the most loving, giving person that I've ever known in my life. But her cup was empty and she couldn't give anymore. So I'm like, Mom, I think I could help you. Do you trust me? And she said yes. So I literally shared with her very simple steps on how to get outside and harness the power of sunlight. I sent her a pair of glasses, and within a matter of a week, she literally called me back, tears in her eyes, because for the first time ever in about 10 years, she slept for 8 hours, and she's been sleeping for 8 hours ever since then. My sister, who had acne and chronic fatigue, she was working at a bank under fluorescent lighting from 9 to 5. Her name is Joy, and she's known ever since I was a kid. Not only that her name is Joy, but she would bring joy to any environment she's in. She's absolutely lovely. And sadly, as she started working at a bank, she was completely depleted and she hated her job. And she said to me, Rudy, like I look over and I see like this 60-year-old lady completely depleted over there. And I see like a version of like I know my trajectory. I see like a version of myself of who I'm becoming if I stay in this environment. And the problem is that she was really scared to leave that environment because she wanted to please my dad. My dad had great hopes that she would evolve in her banking position, and she didn't want to disappoint him. So she had to take a really difficult choice. And this is when I invited her to completely leave her career and join me on this crazy farming trip. And finally, she joined. And after a week of being on the farm, she completely transformed. And today, she's my business partner, by the way. And she's one of the most vibrant and energetic entrepreneurs that I know. So, how could that be possible? So, I realized this wasn't a personal discovery anymore. It was literally transforming other people's life. And this is what led me to start VivaRays with my sister Joy. Because after I did the first 30 pairs, as I mentioned, I had no intention to start a business. In fact, I hated the idea because what that meant is that would pull me out from me being on farms and living the best life of my life. I didn't have a phone, I didn't have a computer, I didn't have a bank account. I was living with the farmers. I was going to Vipassana and meditating all day long. And I was doing what I absolutely love, studying science and discovering the science of light. So why would I leave that bubble that I absolutely love and go and jump into a world where to me at that time it was an absolutely torturing world. But then three years later, I'm literally more convinced than ever before because and I give the credit for Joy because she really convinced me. But I was able to see that all of us in the modern world, like all of us, literally, we struggle with different things. And from my own experience, it boils down to the one thing that we all have a light problem. So as I realized this, I felt like a deep purpose and responsibility to leave the farm and to have this one goal of doing absolutely the best that I could and giving all of myself every freaking day to elevate the quality of light that we're exposed to a whole new level so that we humans can live a vibrant, vital, and vivacious life once again. And I realized that in order for me to be able to do this, I needed to have a conversation and to help other humans see that they are living in a light environment that is completely intoxifying and that is draining the vital energy of our life. And once you understand the science, I think you will see why this is more important than ever before. So after 4 or 5 years of going around and teaching about light, the one thing I realized is that most people think that light is something superficial that allow us to see the world around us. It's something that we can turn on and off so that we can see what's happening in the room. Today, my goal is to reframe that completely. Okay. And I'm not going to start with a study because the first time I actually understood this, I wasn't reading a study. I was literally on my hands and knees in the field in Quebec, and something happened to me that I could not explain. For most of my adult life, and many of you here would relate, perhaps before I share, how many meals do you eat per day? If you could drop in the comments. 2 meals, 3 meals, 4 meals. And I want you to count also the snacks because those also count as a meal. Three or four, 1 meal. Wow, that's awesome. 2 meals, 1 to 2 snacks. So that's four, four. Okay. So for most of my adult life, I ate four, sometimes 5 meals, sometimes more. And here's the thing, I was never satisfied. Never. I'd finish a meal and within an hour, I'd be already thinking about the next meal. Now, my energy was on the floor and food was the only lever I knew how to pull. I had thought that if I eat a meal, that I could feel more energized. And on top of that, I was spending thousands of dollars a year on supplements, adaptogens, mitochondrial support, you name it. All of it aimed at one thing, more energy. Then I go to the farm and literally I'm doing the hardest physical work of my entire life, like 8 hours in the field, weeding crops in the sun. And about a week in, I noticed something that genuinely concerns me. I'd stop being hungry. Like not eating a bit less. I've gone from 5 meals a day down to 1 meal, and sometimes I wouldn't even feel that I wanted to eat a meal. And my first thought was like, it wasn't like, oh wow, how wonderful. Literally, my first thought was something is wrong with me. I'm getting sick because that's usually what losing your appetite means for most people. So I'm literally watching myself and waiting until when my fever would hit. I'm like, oh, like I still don't have fever. Like, how come? Like, what's going on? And instead, I've got more energy than I've ever had since I was a child. How is that possible? So, harder physical work than I've ever done in my life, less food than I've ever eaten, none of the supplements that were costing me thousands of dollars, and more energy than 5 meals had ever given me. So think about this. If it's true that your energy comes from foods, like most of the wellness gurus would tell us, and that is what every single person had ever told me, then what I was living through was a lie. It was impossible. So either I was wrong about what I was feeling in my own body, or everybody who had ever given me advice was working from a paradigm that was completely old and irrelevant anymore. So let me ask you this question. And I asked this question to myself. Where do you think energy actually comes from? Maybe drop something in the comment. So light, sun. That's awesome. So I'll show you why essentially roughly 1/3 of our energy come from food and about 2/3 comes from light. And even that 1/3 of energy that comes from food is essentially coming from light. Why is that? Because food is but light that is being stored in an apple or in an apricot. It's literally an electromagnetic barcode of sunlight that is being stored in that food. Now, I genuinely believe also that a lot of our energy comes from our inner light, and that is essentially the inner divine being that we become aware of, that is constantly there. And as we become more aware of that divinity within us, we access that omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipowerful energy within ourselves. So let me show you how it actually works, because it's actually physics. Inside every cell in our body, there are these tiny little engines, and we've got trillions of them. And their whole job is to make the energy that allow us to think, to move, to heal, even to sleep while it requires energy. And those are called mitochondria. And that's the only piece of biology I'm going to ask you to remember today. All right. So I'm not going really deep in biology. And everybody told you that those engines run on food, but it turns out that it doesn't. Now, why mitochondria are really important? Back in 2017, there's a doctor, his name Dr. Douglas Wallace. He won an award for his groundbreaking discovery. He said 90% of more of modern chronic diseases, including anxiety, depression, Alzheimer, cancer, diabetes, you name it. It turns out these chronic diseases are not originating in the nucleus genome like we had originally thought. It's not like you're inheriting this from your mother or father. It turns out that they're originating from the mitochondrial genome, which is a lot more impacted by the environment than your genes. And one of the main reasons, it turns out, mitochondria lose their efficiency, it's not what most people think it was. It wasn't only food or lack of exercise. It turns out it was related to two things that nobody had thought about: sunlight and darkness. And the second one, this is where like most people completely miss it. There's a lot of people talking about sunlight, very few people talking about darkness. Now, in the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to show you why both of them equally matter, and why one is the yin and the other is the yang, and why all of nature is essentially composed of yin and yang that are interchanging their polar opposites, that are giving to each other in equal measures. And when this formula of balance is broken, it breaks down the continuity of that system. And in our own lives, when there's lack of balance between light and darkness, it completely breaks every aspect of our rhythm. So, how does this thing work? I'd like to bring a famous physicist, Albert Einstein. And you may think, whoa, like how is that related to Albert Einstein? But it's related in so many ways, because Albert Einstein spoke about the photoelectric effect, which shows how light excites electrons and literally generates electricity. Now, we know this is how plants photosynthesize. We also know this is how solar panels work. And here is the fascinating part. It's how your body and my body works as well. How so? Nobel Prize winner Albert Szent-Györgyi, he discovered vitamin C among other things. He also spoke about how sunlight excites the electrons in the electron transport chain of the mitochondria and literally creates the electricity, the motor, the spin that the mitochondria needs in order to break down the food into energy. And here's the part that finally explains my appetite. There's literally research dating back to 1979 showing that different frequencies of sunlight activate different enzymes in our body that are responsible for digestion and our ability to absorb that food into our bloodstream. Okay. And it makes those enzymes up to 500% more effective. Now, think about this. A meal that you eat out in the sun is completely different than a meal that you eat inside in your cave. Will have a radically different response on your biology. So it's not more food, it's more out of the same foods that you're already eating. This is the secret. I'm going to repeat this again. It's not about more food, it's about more out of the foods that you are already eating. So I wasn't eating less on that farm because something was wrong with me. I was eating less because for the first time in my entire adult life, I was actually getting what was in the food. 5 meal a day was in my basement in Canada when I was living in the cave and I was starving. One meal, even sometimes fasting, and I was full. The only thing that changed was the light I was standing in. So here's the realization that completely changed everything I thought about light and about wellness. And I want you to literally like, if you leave with one thing today, I want you to remember this one sentence. Light is not just illumination, it is information. And it is the most important information that your body is constantly desiring in order to process all of life. And it's literally the fuel that is running your engine. Okay. So your light environment, out of a sudden, is no longer a background detail of your life. It's not something that, you just leave by chance. It's something that is programming you and it reaches you at a cellular level every single day of your life, whether you're paying attention to it or not. The mitochondria, those engines that are the root cause of whether we're living a vital life or whether we are sick most of the time, they essentially need a cooling system to deal with the oxidative stress that is happening in the mitochondria. So, what do you think is the cooling system during the day? Maybe drop something in the comments. What do you think is the cooling system that allow the mitochondria to clean the oxidative stress that end up damaging it? Somebody said water, breath, night, water, fasting, electrons, or relevant, or relevant. So the mitochondria actually make on-site melatonin in order of magnitude higher concentration than is made in the pineal gland at night when we sleep. Okay, now why is that important? Sunlight comes in and the mitochondria actually make on-site melatonin. And melatonin, what do we know about melatonin? It's one of the highest, most powerful antioxidants in nature. Okay, it actually upregulates the glutathione system. It's more powerful than any of the antioxidants that we access from food, like dark chocolate or blueberries. And it's able essentially to mop up those reactive oxygen species in the mitochondria. Now, we do this by being exposed to sunlight during the day. But the question is, what happens when there's no sunlight? What is the cooling system then? We must have another cooling system when the sun is not up. What do you think the cooling system is? Drop in the chat. When the sun is not out, what is it that allow us to cool that mitochondria? Come on, give it a guess. No wrong answers. Moon, melatonin. Mayo said melatonin. So It's exactly that. But now we're talking about a different type of melatonin. Now we're talking about pineal gland melatonin. So mitochondria needs darkness in order to regenerate. So we spoke about the light. Now it's all about darkness. And the absence of blue and green light in nature is what triggered the pineal melatonin. Okay, so the sun sets. This is very important information as the sun is setting that tells our nervous system the day is ending. And therefore, every cell in our body start communicating with every other cell saying, hey, we're setting up the space for activating the cellular cleaning crew that will allow us to repair old cells, replace them with new cells, to repair old mitochondria, replace them with new mitochondria. And this is essentially called what science call autophagy, apoptosis, and mitophagy. And I don't know if you know, but it's a cool fact. 50 to 70 billion cells in our body die every single night through a process called apoptosis. And here's the beauty. Every cell that die, for everyone that dies, a new, healthier one is born. Like literally, we're living and dying every single day. And the person that we think we are yesterday is no longer that person on a cellular level. Because we had already gotten rid of that old self and old cells and build new ones. And what allow us to truly build new ones that keep us vibrant, that keep us vital, that keep us vivacious is that downstream system of sunlight during the day, darkness at night, that continue to give the body the right information at the right time so that we can activate those cellular cleaning crews and we continue to live really a healthy life and able to detoxify and replace the old into new. Now, the question that often rises, and I was literally contemplating on this, and there's wild data from Harvard Medical School answering this question. So we know that light suppresses melatonin at night. And this is essentially why I created these classes and why I would always wear them after the sunset, no matter what. But the question is, how much light do you need in order to suppress melatonin? What do you think? Please drop something in the comment because when I actually asked myself this question, I was really shocked to know the answer. 200 lux. So let's talk in terms of time. How long do you think we need to expose ourselves at night in order to destroy melatonin? How long does it take to destroy melatonin? An hour, 2 hours, 3 hours? What do you think? 30 minutes, somebody said. How long do you think? 10 minutes? That's pretty wild. So it turns out, oh, somebody said 1 second. That's wild. So it turns out it's 15 seconds of artificial light exposure will significantly quash your melatonin. Wow, that's crazy. The sensitivity of the human visual system is absolutely extraordinary. We have what we call the rods in our eyes, and those are the photoreceptors that allow us to navigate in darkness. And the rods, the higher the sensitivity, are the higher sensitive photoreceptors in the back of our eyes, and they could literally detect a single photon, one photon. And to contrast this to how we're living today, most people are completely alienated from what their body needs after the sunset. And how do I know this? Because after I have gone from being completely bombarded by artificial light every single night to going into an environment that finally allowed me to reset back to how my ancestor lived. Shortly after this, the experience of getting artificial light after the sunset in my eyes was radically strange. Like every cell in my body, down to my core, knew that I should not be getting that light. You know, when you get intuitive about something, when you taste something and you could already tell it's not good for you? I had realized that I had for many years lost that inner intuition because I was so desensitized to all this light that is destroying me at night. And out of a sudden, when I detoxed out of it and I tried to come back to it, every cell down to my core said, no, this is not like this light is doesn't feel right. And this is what I wish for everybody here on the call. I like there's this power within you, this intuition within you that knows what's right and knows what you need. Unfortunately, we have completely disconnected and desynthesized ourselves from that power because we have been living in an environment that not only disconnected us from nature, but ultimately, what does it mean to disconnect from nature? To disconnect from nature is to disconnect from ourselves because we are nature. God's nature is our nature, and nature is in us, and we are in nature. So when you think about it, what does it mean to disconnect out of nature? It means to disconnect from ourselves, to disconnect from our own intuition, from our own power, from our own discernment that allow us to know what's right and what's wrong, that allow us to take the right decision at the right time, to say yes for the freaking thing that we know we need to say yes to, and to say no when we know it's a no. Like my life had radically changed, not only on a physical level, but only also on a spiritual level. And it's so beautiful to see that a lot of the people who come in the circle of the circadian biology and the light not only transform on a physical level, not only they reclaim back their sleep, their energy, they lose weight, they feel more alive, but ultimately they come back to themselves. And you see people literally thriving because out of a sudden they realize who they really are. There's a law, and it's a universal law. You probably, if you've ever read the Kabbalah, one of the seven principles of the Kabbalah is the law of rhythm, the law of polarity, and the law of gender, all of which are essentially talking about what? About that rhythmic light and darkness. And it manifests in so many different ways. Inhalation is an exhalation, masculine and feminine, but all of which it drives a rhythm. And that is the rhythm of nature. And when we disconnect from that rhythm, we literally start struggling. So I want to end this by suggesting an idea. And this is something that constantly fascinates me. It's again coming back to Albert Einstein, E equal mc squared, and what it actually means. E is energy, m is matter, and c is speed of light. So this formula, when you look at it and you start dissecting it, what I realized is, wow, it's one of the most profound truths about this universe. Light and matter are interchangeable. Light becomes matter. Think about photosynthesis, how light turns into sugar. Sugar turns into leaves, branches, eventually a tree. Now, matter turns back into light. Think about the wood. You burn it and it releases a huge amount of light energy. So guess what? That means that body that you think you own, it's actually light. It's traced back to the energy of light. And everything around us in this moment, our bodies, the earth, the stars, is but light. So this is more than just a theory. It literally controls our reality and our well-being. And I started this conversation by saying, I'm going to show you that the quality of your life is entirely dependent on the quality of light that is entering our eyes every single day. When light is slowing down, it enters our eyes and something absolutely magical happens. Instead of traveling at the speed of light, across the universe, it actually slows down as it passes through a substance called the vitreous EDI, which is composed of water, collagen, and acid. And this is where the magic happens. The energy of light is transformed into the very neurotransmitters and hormones that shape the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you act. Sunlight turns into cortisol, helping you feel alert, energized, and ready for the day. It becomes dopamine, helping you to think creatively, pay attention, and have the motivation to pursue your deepest goals. See, dopamine is a miraculous molecule because it's out of sudden, it allows you to step back, see the bigger picture in life, sit up and pay attention, and have the vigor to do the hard things to achieve what you've always wanted to achieve. And what's one thing that most people today are struggling with? ADHD, the lack of the ability to sit up and pay attention. But here's the thing, you don't have an ADHD problem. You have a light problem. You've been light deprived. You're deprived from sunlight, which builds up your dopamine, and you're exposed to an artificial frequency that has been shown to completely destroy your dopamine pathway. It turns out Meta and Google, they own a patent for a 455 nanometer specific frequency of blue light that completely hijack your dopamine and makes you highly suggestible. It makes you struggle to sit up and pay attention to the important things. It makes you distracted. It makes you compulsive. It disconnects you from yourself, and it makes you say yes to all of the things outside of you that you actually don't need. So I'm going to end with this. I want you to really think and make an audit. What kind of light are you allowing into your eyes every single day? Because again, the quality of your life is entirely dependent on the quality of the spectrum of light that is entering your eyes. And all of this is a lot simpler than you ever think because you don't need much to implement this knowledge. A few steps: wake up, go outside, get morning sunlight for at least 15 to 20 minutes. Step number 2, throughout your working day, adopt the behavior of taking sun breaks no matter what. Step number 3, if you are in an environment during the day where you're bombarded by this inflammatory frequency, circadian lenses that harmonize the blue light without blocking it, like the one I'm wearing right now. Step number 4, around sunset, whether the sun is out or not, give yourself the signal that the day is ending by being outside. Light is information. After you receive that information, protect your eyes at all costs. No more blue, no more green light. And that could look like you go back home and you make your home like a cave. You turn off all artificial light, you turn on candles and Himalayan salt lamps, and you stop looking at screens and TVs. If that's really hard to achieve, and I understand it is, then making sure that you have the right glasses that filter the right frequency of light at the right time of the day. So after sunset, I would usually wear these. They mimic the exact color temperature of the fire. They eliminate the frequency that I'm not supposed to see. And then I keep them on at all cost, all the freaking time, because I want that consistency. And then about 30 minutes before bedtime or 1 hour before bedtime, I would switch to the nighttime lenses. Naturally, when you adopt this tool and when you wear it for some time, you will reclaim back that knowing within you that artificial light is not right for you after the sunset. And naturally, you will start creating an environment where you perhaps don't need the glasses if you are in your own home. You could put candles on, you could put Himalayan salt lamps that are powered by incandescent light bulbs. And if you go outside and you don't have control of your light environment, this is where it's absolutely radical and important to maintain that consistency by keeping this tool on with you. And this is essentially the story of my life. All right, so I'm gonna end it here. and perhaps we could open it up for some questions and comments.
Thank you so much, Rudy. That was so amazing, so inspirational as always. Just appreciate your sharing of this beautiful information and also just sharing your soul. It's so potent. So thank you. I think
Thank you,
one
Megan.
question that I saw a couple times was about prescription lenses.
All right. So prescription lenses. That's an excellent question. Um, we so let me talk first about the issue with prescription lenses. If you got your prescription lenses from the optometrist office, 100% of them, they block UVA and UVB, which are very important frequencies for many different reasons that activate different hormones and peptides in the body that turn into different hormones that essentially control our dopamine, our cortisol, and other things. So I'm not going to go so deeply in the biology of that rabbit hole, but long story short, UVA and UVB are very important frequencies, and we're designed to get those frequencies via our eyes. The prescription lenses block 100% of UVA and UVB. Now, the other tragedy is you have all this blue light blocking glasses marketing gimmick where optometrists add a coating to your prescription to block blue light that essentially does nothing inside because it's blocking the wrong frequency. LED lights have no blue purple light, and the coating that they put blocks blue purple. But the other tragedy is you're wearing it outside. So now you're not getting UVA, you're not getting UVB, and you're not getting purple light. So you become deficient on those frequencies. So we came up with a solution on our website. It's called the 4-in-1 glasses for people who wear prescription. The base frame is prescription lenses that allow 50 to 60% more UVA and UVB, 100% of blue purple light to go through the lenses. You'd wear them outside when you are in the sun, and essentially they allow you to absorb those frequencies without needing to think about it, especially if you are performing any tasks outside that require you to be able to see and you're not able to take off those glasses. And they'll come also with three different lenses, daytime, evening, and nighttime, that you would clip on depending on the time of the day. So if you are indoors during the day exposed to artificial light, you'll clip on the daytime lenses. If you are exposed to artificial light after the sunset, you will clip on the evening, etc., the nighttime as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Does anybody else have a question for Rudy?
So looking here,
I see some in the chat. Yeah.
I have a pair of VivaRays, the day lens. Is sunlight still better? Is my question. I would think your answer would be yes, based on what I just heard. Yes, absolutely. So the daytime lenses from VivaRays that you have, you would only wear them inside when you are exposed to artificial light. When you go outside, there's nothing, there should be nothing between your eyes and sunlight. Unless you wear prescription and you really need those lenses to be able to see and perform tasks, that's the only reason why you'd have something. Otherwise, sunlight is always the answer. Okay. Now, I would venture to say that while the daytime lenses are really important because they filter out the inflammatory frequency during the day, the thing that actually moves the needle is the nighttime lenses. Because the impact of artificial light, although it has a negative impact on us during the day because it increases inflammation, the impact is 1,000 times greater at night because it's completely disrupting the brain and confusing us about the time of the day, and therefore it starts disrupting all of our hormones and our rhythm. So if I had to choose between like sometimes people say, okay, if you had to choose between one lens, which one would it be? I would say the evening lens because this is the one that will move the needle the most and it will help you to reset your circadian rhythm. And the secret with it is you don't wear it one day, yes, 3 days, no. You don't wear it one time at sunset and another time at 9 p.m. If you want to see true results, you need to wear it every single day after the sunset because that's what your brain is expecting. Consistency of when the sun is rising and when the dark time is starting. Um, so let's see if there's any other questions. Do you think Haritaki, Haritaki, decalcify, Haritaki, decalcium, the pineal gland. I'm imagining it's saying if it calcifies the pineal gland. What's Haritaki? Do you know, Megan? I have no idea. If you could unmute yourself and explain to me what Haritaki is, that would be great. And can sunlight help decalcify the pineal gland? Absolutely, yes. Especially if you practice sun gazing safely around sunrise and sunset when the sun is lower on the horizon. And if you would want to practice this, I'd advise that you progressively build up that practice. So you don't just go and sun gaze for 45 minutes on day one. You probably start with 15 seconds and then start adding, I don't know, probably 15 seconds every day. And if you ever feel like your eyes are hurting or it's too much, then I would stop or decrease the amount of time you're looking at the sun. But I had personally practiced sun gazing for many years, and I had personally seen tremendous impact on a physical as well as spiritual level. And now that I had practiced it for about 6 or 7 years, I'm not doing it as consistently as I used to before, and still I had maintained the benefits that I had accessed from it without consistently practicing it. Although I'm constantly outside at sunrise and sunset, but not every time I'm actually gazing at the sun. So I think it was. Did you want to unmute yourself to explain what haritaki is, if you're comfortable with that? If not, all good. I see that you're doing some ninja stuff there. Okay, all good. I think we move on. What's the name of your lens? Um, I'm not sure what that means. Maybe you mean what's the name of the company? It's called VivaRays, VivaRays. Will your prescription lenses work with uh varifocals? Yeah, they would. We make all form of prescriptions. Uh, I bought them for inside. Yes, agree on the sun gazing. Yes, Beth. Um, all right. Any other questions? Anything that you're starting to think about integrating today after hearing all of this? Like, what's the one thing, if you could type in the chat, that you are going to perhaps start integrating today? Something you're gonna change about your light environment, something you're gonna adapt, integrate. I'd love to hear in the chat. The night lens or going to illuminescent, nighttime glasses, evening, evening sunset time, and your nighttime glasses. When is the best time to sun soak? So that's a another rabbit hole on its own. But I would say if you are a beginner, you're just starting on this journey, I would start focusing on sunrise and sunset first for some time. And then when it comes to actually sun soaking, when the sun is highest at noontime, when UVA and UVB are present, that's another big rabbit hole about melanin and the role melanin plays in our biology, which I'm happy perhaps to, for the ones who were here, perhaps we could have another deep dive where we could start diving into deeper aspects of light. But that would be a little bit more advanced. And I would focus on sunrise and sunset at first. And perhaps after a month of really focusing on getting those sunrise, sunset, blocking artificial light at night, making sure that your circadian biology is starting to become on point, this is when I would start introducing sunbathing around noon. And I would probably, depending on your skin type, depending on your diet, so many different factors, I would probably start with 5 minutes, see how the skin is reacting, and then add a few minutes at a time progressively. But I wouldn't do any of that before I nail the sunrise, sunset, and blocking artificial lights. You want to have a very solid circadian biology before you start sun tanning. Sun tanning without a proper circadian rhythm will be essentially dangerous because your body is not ready for it. Daily sun breaks, Ember. That's awesome. My house lights on after sunset. So I'm imagining no house lights on after sunset. That's amazing. Somebody said I have VivaRays and I'd like to make sure I have them on consistently. I have them on consistently and use the other lenses more too. Yes, that's absolutely important. The most important thing you could do is to give your body that consistent light and dark timing. It will make the whole difference. Also, sunbathing in the morning, that's awesome. Eating outside, that's great. Anytime you're having a meal, it doesn't cost you anything to go and have it outside. You'll digest better, your enzymes will be activated. You'll probably start noticing you need less food. Candlelight at night when chilling before bed. I live in my van, so I'm outside a lot, but my lights are bright inside the van at night. Absolutely. Candlelight is amazing. Being more intentional about spending sunsets outside. Yes. And I just want to bring up something that right now the excitement is high. There's all these things we want to do. Naturally, the motivation will drop because I've been here. I shared with you my story. It was motivational. Motivation increased. When motivation increased, we feel like we could do all these things. But what's the one thing we know about the science of behavior? Motivation is a fickle friend. We can't rely on it. What's the other thing that control behavior? What control behavior is the capacity to do something. And that's mental capacity, physical capacity. So when we look at something, how hard or easy it is will determine how likely we are to do it when we don't have motivation. Okay. So if I go and ask you, hey, go outside every morning, watch the sunrise for 30 minutes, most of you will look at this as madness because you probably think, I don't have 30 minutes. It's very hard to do. So, with any of these things you're thinking to do tonight, I want you to pick the easiest, smallest version of it. And that's the version that you would do regardless of whether the world around you is collapsing and it's absolute disaster in your world, you'll still be able to do it because it's very easy to do. For example, instead of saying, I'm going to go outside for 20 minutes every single morning, well, I would say I'd design a smallest version of this. And I'll say, every morning I'm going outside for 30 seconds and I'm going to genuinely celebrate those 30 seconds because when you feel good after a behavior, your brain will start wiring that behavior and will start demanding that you do it more. This is how Instagram uses the science of behavior to hook you on Instagram. And I want you to use that same science for your advantage. So you go outside for 30 seconds and you genuinely celebrate. And naturally, if you feel like you want to spend more than 30 seconds, you extend that time. But you genuinely celebrate the 30 seconds. And if all you have is 30 seconds, great. It's a win for the day. So anything you think you want to implement today, think of that smallest version and think about a way you want to celebrate it. A way for me, for instance, when I do something and it's a small version and I'm essentially mentally struggling to celebrate it because I'm like, oh, that doesn't deserve a celebration. Like 30 seconds outside, that's nothing. You need to overcome that voice and you need to activate that childlike spirit of like, yes, I did it. And that's for me. I like doing the fist. I like to feel it. I like to shout out loud, I did it. No matter what it is for you, maybe it's a nice dance, maybe it's I don't know. You activate what is right for you and make sure you celebrate it. Um, okay, I see a lot of action steps that people are inspired to take, so that's wonderful. Um, Megan, also, perhaps we could drop a link and a code. So my team created a special discount for Megan and the community, anybody who showed up today, to be able to access a very special discount code on the glasses. And also, if you have any questions related to my presentation, related to the topic of light, please reach out to us at support@vivarays.com. My team will transfer me those questions and I'll make sure to answer each one of them personally. So Mayo asked, do you need to put your eyes in the sunset like you do the sunrise, or can you just be outside soaking in the end of the day? In both cases, you just need to be outside soaking the light at sunrise and at sunset. You don't necessarily need to be watching the sun as it rises or as the sun as it sets to access those benefits. If you could watch it as it's rising and as it's setting, great, that's golden. But if you can't, then just the fact you are outside, there's no sunglasses, nothing is blocking that light from your eyes is great enough. Are contact lenses similar to light intake as prescription glasses? Yes, unfortunately, and they're worse because the contact lenses they block the oxygen and CO2 exchange that happen at a mitochondrial level. The retina breatheth. It's the only organ. It's miraculous. One of the only organs that have been actually registered to have an O2 CO2 exchange, and it's highly condensed in mitochondria. And what does mitochondria need? Light and oxygen. So what does contact lenses do? They block the light, they block the oxygen. So they're terrible. How do you feel about sunscreens? I think sunscreens are extremely detrimental because they're packed with endocrine disruptors like homosalate, oxybenzone, all of these petroleum-based materials that literally there's a lot of data and science showing that when light shines on them, what happens? They start secreting all of these toxins because they're phototoxic. A phototoxic material means that when photons interact with that material, it releases all of these toxins in your endocrine system. So I'd say a hard no for sunscreen. But if your body is not yet adapted and ready to absorb sun, then cover yourself. Find shade. There's other better strategies than using sunscreen. If you need to use sunscreen, find a natural sunscreen like zinc oxide combined with tallow, for instance, is a great strategy. But I would avoid regular sunscreens at all cost. How do we get the three lenses as a package? They're already packaged for you. So they're called the 3-in-1 glasses on our website, and they come together. Is there a time you should avoid sun? Yes, I think so, depending on how adapted. For me, there's no time I need to avoid the sun. I could be out, but that wasn't the case 4 or 5 years ago. I used to burn after 5 minutes of being in sunlight. So I strategically built up my melanin. By again, the first step to building your melanin is not actually building your melanin, is resetting your circadian rhythm. That acts as the foundation that will give you the ability to interact with light in a healthier level. So start focusing on resetting your circadian rhythm, and then slowly after, start introducing UV exposure slowly and gradually. What time you should avoid the sun? Anytime where you had exceeded your dose and you need to cover. Um, all right. I think we've covered pretty much everything. Which prescription glasses should I choose if I wear glasses all day, near and far? So those would be the regular prescription. So there's readers and there's regular prescription that you'd wear all day. Um, if you have any doubts, also reach out to us, support@vivarays.com, and we'll help you figure out which prescription you need the most. Usually we'd need your prescription information, which you could send it to my team or you could upload it on the website, and then we will be able to help you on this. Do you try to ground when sun soaking? Absolutely. So anytime I'm sun soaking, I would want to be barefoot. Why? Because when you interact with any phenomenon like sunlight, sunlight essentially is an entity that is generating electricity in your body. And there's a metabolic process that happens that naturally increases reactive oxygen species in the body, so oxidative stress. And when you exercise, that happens also. It's not because sunlight is bad, it's because how life works. And one of the best ways to discharge any excess charge that you're getting from interacting with the sun is being barefoot, because the ground act as a discharging mechanism that allow you to empty or get rid of all that excess inflammation that essentially happens so much indoors when you're exposed to blue light, when you are around Wi-Fi's all the time. All of this floods your body with an excess charge known as inflammation. And when you step outside on the ground, many people think that, oh, what actually happens is electrons start flowing from the earth to the body. I completely don't agree with that type of thinking. I think that what essentially is happening is we end up discharging the excess charge that is acting as inflammation in the body, and we empty it into the earth. Just like electricity works. When you create your circuitry in the house, the ground acts as the discharging mechanism. Um, that's why there's a ground in the circuitry. All right, I guess we're pretty good.
Yes, thank you so much, Rudy. Appreciate you so much. I shared the link and the discount code in the chat, which is my name. You guys can see it there. If you click the link, then you'll have it in your browser. And I'll also send it out in the email with this recording. And I also put Rudy's support email there too if you have any questions. And yeah, I've just been thinking while listening to you this whole time, just that this time that we're going through, this time in history as a human species is so unique. And the light problem as well as the scrolling problem and the way that our dopamine receptors have been damaged and starved, and we're like in this attention crisis.
Mm,
And we're all artists. We're all here meant to be artists and create art and receive the inspiration and information from the unique blueprint of our own souls. And that comes from having the capacity, the capability to sit and be present with what is and be present in the moment and really take it in and really let it in. And this era of just like constant stimulation that's led to these ADHD symptoms and this struggling with um, having and holding attention has really impacted our ability to create, and that's our purpose, is to create, is to inspire each other, is to be inspired and to inspire. So Rudy, I find you so inspirational. I appreciate you so much, and
mm,
I really encourage everyone to really protect and nourish um, your own attention span and your creativity. Yeah,
mm.
thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much for these beautiful words. They land so deep.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yes.
All right.
All right. Thank
Thank you
you.
so
Thank
much,
you
Megan. I
all.
really appreciate you setting this up and bringing all these beautiful people together. Thank
Mhm.
you.
Absolutely.
All
Have a
right.
great day,
Have a
everyone.
wonderful day, everybody. Bye.
Ciao.